But this is a tentative solution, temporary solution. So we should have a real change in the law that, you know, we don't want to be sued, you know, in such cases. But again, you know, also there are some cases against privacy issues. You know, you write about, you know, phone tapping, you know, things. And I don't know, there is a thin line whether it's a news or it's a just issue of privacy. And then we have a vague line, I mean, another thin line between what is terrorism act and what is freedom of expression. Some journalists, especially the Kurdish ones, report or write about PKK activities or other things about happening in southeastern Turkey, and it is considered as supporting PKK, the terrorist organization. It could easily be considered as, you know, freedom of act within the freedom of expression. But again, this is up to prosecutors and judges. When it's up to them, they usually take side with the state rather than individual. And that should be changed first. And then laws should not permit them to take sides with the states, but it should be human rights first, and so on.
Mr. Memecan, how is the situation in Europe, for example? Can a journalist easily support terrorist activity and without any prosecution?
Each country has its own case. You know, now we are studying that. You know, not we, but I mean not only journalists but politicians. I know that they are going to Ireland and study what happened, how did they solve their terrorist problem, and it depends on what country you are. But they have strong precautions against terrorism. But still, I think we should take side towards freedom of expression because.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I forgot to read Mr. Memecan's bio in the beginning. I just have to fix that problem. Memecan's cartoons are published in various magazines and newspapers abroad, and he has had more than 50 books of cartoons published, right?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this wonderful beginning and introduction. And now
that was a boring subject.
No,
I mean,
it's
if
okay.
you had asked me about how to draw a cartoon, I would have told you.
I will have more provocative
stuff,
questions later. Now, our second guest was an editor-in-chief of one of the mainstream newspapers in Turkey. So he has a very huge bio. Let me start to read this bio. Mr. Ergun received his BA in law from Istanbul University Law Faculty in 1981. After completing his internship in Izmir Bar Association, he worked as a freelance lawyer. In 1984, he joined Yeni Asır newspaper as a political news reporter and became the assistant managing editor until 1987. In 1987, Babahan joined Söz newspaper as a founding staff and started working there as a managing editor. Later on, he worked in Hürriyet newspaper as a news editor for a year. In 1988, he received a scholarship from John Knight's professional journalism program in Stanford University. Upon completing the program, he started working in Sabah newspaper as an assistant managing editor. However, this only lasted a year due to the other scholarship that Babahan received from Ford Foundation at University of Maryland at College Park, and attended a seminar on American foreign policy process. Relocating to Turkey in 1991, he continued his work in Sabah newspaper as a managing editor and became the managing editor-in-chief until he joined Yeni Binyıl newspaper in 2000 as the founder editor-in-chief. In 2002, he became the Ankara-chief of Akşam newspaper. In August of the same year, he rejoined to Sabah newspaper as editor-in-chief and columnist. Since 2010, he works at Star newspaper and Today Zaman as a columnist and also as a political commentator at 24 TV. So because he has worked for a long time in the news business, and I just want to ask, what was your biggest challenge when you were in the in the office when you were the editor-in-chief in Sabah newspaper. And please tell us how you were making the news, how you were selecting the news, what were your priorities, and it's really different than the media landscape in United States. Also, what is the, I mean, what is the reason of the women, I mean, representations of the women bodies in the mainstream newspapers, such as Milliyet or Vatan newspaper, even Radikal newspaper? Please.
Thank you for having us in here. We can separate our journalism adventure into two. First is our coming from Izmir to Istanbul and starting Sabah newspaper and making it quite successful for a certain period of time, selling more than Hürriyet and making headlines better than Hürriyet, changing the news journalism landscape in Turkey, bringing technology, assisting young journalists going abroad to study and come back, that kind of things. And we were quite successful with it, and Sabah Group became one of the biggest group in Turkey and founded it. Also a commercial TV channel, another bunch of newspapers, magazines, very modern printing facilities, etc. But the competition was very tough, and in time, money corrupted people, the owner, the board, etc. So in this competition, everybody was buying a bank to support their businesses, especially for Sabah, starting a new television channel was very costly and spent a lot of money on it. So the company, the owner bought a bank, and in 2 or 3 years, it bankrupted in 2000. There is a difference between owning this bank and after it. Before we were quite independent, especially we were like outsiders. Nobody knew us much in Istanbul, not the establishment, nor business circles, anybody. We used to hang around together, mostly Salih and a bunch of guys, especially we were nearly all men's society in Sabah. Then we could write about anything. We didn't know any military people in Ankara. We didn't have any contact with the military. We are quite civilian-minded, I guess, Salih.
Yes, we were.
Then after getting the bank, and when they bought the bank, it was already a problematic bank. They bought it from the state, from the government. And then things started getting wrong way. Then we realized that we need politicians' support to be able to survive in the business. So we started determining the headlines according to the politicians' wishes, especially the prime ministers or the minister who is in charge of the treasury, etc. And it got us into trouble, as I mentioned before. In the year of 2000, we bankrupted. The owner went into jail. We all left the paper because of these difficulties. And
I did.
You stayed. You stayed there. And but we came back in 2002 because the state confiscated everything, newspaper, TV channel, and printing facilities. It was run for a certain period of time by Doğan Group, and other business people came. In 2002 we came back, our circulation was low, moral was low, and everybody thought it was impossible for Sabah to survive this difficult period, but we somehow managed. It was a strong brand, and after 5 years or 7 years, it was sold again, whole group, for $1.1 billion. So it shows that we managed it quite successfully. During this period, we realized that, especially after buying the bank, the military is very strong organization in Turkey, stronger than the politicians. As I said, our owner was quite different guy. He used to believe military should obey the civilians, and he used to say it openly. Then during a kind of postmodern military coup period, he made mistakes, big mistakes, and tried to please the military people. Then if you ask me what was the most challenging thing, trying to prepare the newspaper for the military, making them happy or pleased as they are. And I don't know if we had any other chances, because there wasn't any opposition movement in Turkey then. And if you try to object them, as Salih said, your life would be in danger. And as we saw in the past, so many important journalists were killed in Turkey, and nowadays we understand that they were killed by a dark organization in the state itself. Otherwise, journalism